Rayla leaves Callum during the significant 2-year-long gap that occurs between Season 3 and Season 4. Exactly what Rayla was doing during this time remains inscrutable. When she does return, she is, to paraphrase Coleridge, a wiser and sadder elf. She is wise enough, at least, to understand that she had erred, that she had supposed that she, by herself, by her own individual capacities, could achieve this grand destiny that she had set out for herself, this grand burden, this grand responsibility. She believed that she alone could stop Viren, that she not only could but had to. And throughout those 2 years, it's implied she failed, schemed, and failed again. Viren, it seems, was not dead or alive during this time, but in this bizarre interstitial state, slowly being revived by Claudia, hence the strange state that Viren is in during Through the Moon when Rayla sees him. Rayla knows this signal has significance, but she misunderstands that significance, as she misunderstands her relationship with Callum. She is more than willing to leap into dangerous circumstances while she is afraid to face the burden of relying on someone else and having to judge their reaction and having to try to build a mutual and fulfilling relationship with someone else. When Rayla leaves, she says that she is doing it for selfless reasons, and she's not necessarily lying, but deep down, on a largely subconscious level, what she does is selfish. It prioritizes a challenge that she wrongly believes that she can easily handle, that being defeating Viren and fulfilling what she believes to be her duty, and neglecting a much harder challenge for such an emotionally stunted elf, that being to try to maintain a relationship with Callum during hard and difficult times. The Dragon Prince's refusal to provide definitive information as to what Rayla was doing during these 2 years is a little frustrating, though I must say that it is very much in line with what the show's ethos has always been. Whether that's a positive or a negative, I am not to judge. The show is rather slow-paced, and it provides a lot of information about certain topics, but in terms of pure explanation, in terms of making situations cohere into a cohesive, orderly, intelligible whole, the show doesn't often do this. And there is a difference between information and lucid explanation. Think about what happens in Season 4 with Erebos' backstory. We receive a lot of information about Erebos and what he did and the grandiose heroics of the elves and dragons and humans that stopped him, but we do not receive a lot of explanations. We do not receive a lot of clarity, a lot of catharsis regarding what Erebos' motives were, or not even his motives, but how he charmed people, how they reacted to him, the little intricate details of their experiences with Erebos. Details like this are essential to the fulfillment of these moments, to making them feel alive, to making them feel like they're intricately decorated with details that are meaningful and purposeful, that we can use to make sense of a given situation. instead of mere information. Now, I must say that explanation is not necessarily, in every single circumstance, preferable to mere information. There are moments when you do not want that sense of fundamental coherence. You do not want everything to fit together neatly and concisely. Some of my all-time favorite stories are stories where there is no singular definitive explanation, where there is no fundamental singular truth for what is. There is no solution to the riddle. There is no fundamentally arranging all the puzzle pieces in such an order that everything makes perfect sense. Think about Rashomon, or think about, in a more recent example, relatively speaking, Mulholland Drive. In works like that, there is the willful cultivation of mystery, of the enigmatic, in a tradition that really flourished at the end of the 19th century through writers like Baudelaire and Mallarmé, this willful pulling back from the sense of providing an ultimate, concise, orderly explanation. But this refusal to give an explanation is only effective if it is done purposefully and intentionally. When I mean intentionally, I don't mean the artist intended it. I don't really put much stock in what specific artists intended, especially in a medium like television where there are many different voices contributing. It's very extensive in its heteroglossia, to use a Bakhtinian term. What I mean by intentional is a bit of internal cohesion, a sort of order, a sort of basic narrative pattern or intentionality, which is different from just not providing an explanation when providing one would be beneficial. And I argue that providing an explanation would be beneficial in the situation of Rayla. The show's best episode is extremely explanatory, that being Thunderfall, episode 306. It is not explanatory in the sense that it provides a watertight, dogmatic etiology where it functions as a just so story, explaining exactly why everything had to happen the way that it did. But it is explanatory on a deeper psychological level. It goes into the depths of how characters think and why they choose what they do, why they make the decisions that they do. The result is a tragedy that is both beautiful and horrifying. It is, to a certain extent, inevitable, in the Aristotelian sense, that these people, in this specific situation, are going to react this specific way. But I believe that the show could provide a sort of satisfactory explanation without being simplistic or overly systematic. I want a sense of the discrepancy between what actually happened to Rayla and what she believes happened, or what she says happens. I do not necessarily mean I want her to lie, although that would be interesting if she did. It would be interesting to see what specifics about her adventure she chose to keep to herself, as opposed to which one she decides to divulge to Callum. But no, I don't necessarily mean I need her to lie. I mean a sort of modernist, Conradian situation. Think Heart of Darkness. Marlowe, at the end, has faced such a fundamental sense of upheaval regarding his basic perspectives and worldviews that there is no coherence anymore. They cannot hold together. He must either completely turn away from the aspirations toward clarity, toward concision toward a precise understanding, or he can completely have to sacrifice his basic self-concept and his basic idea of how these systems of power and control operate. Instead of either of those choices, he chooses to tell comforting fictions, to create a source of fundamental heroism, of fundamental coherence at the end, even though it is a fiction that fundamentally does not serve to revitalize this basic optimism and assurance, even though it does not serve to reassemble what had been broken. It is not a lie necessarily in that there's a chance that he believes it, but it's not necessarily true. It's a very superficial idea of what he had seen and encountered. I want something like that for Rayla. Or just the modernist sense that you see in works ranging from Ulysses to Mrs. Dalloway, of the difference between the external layer, how we speak of ourselves and others, how we interact on the plane of ordinary life and its routines, and the deeper, more unsettling and mystical and almost nightmarish at times layer of how we actually experience the world around us and how we actually experience the roiling depths of our psyches. I want something like that for Rayla. I want to see this person who has such a difficult time putting things into words to have to do just that, to have to try to assemble some patina, some surface of stability and certainty over the roiling chaos that likely defined her experiences. And I want a sense of how insufficient her explanations ultimately are. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. It is an extremely thoughtful show, and I am intrigued to see what choices it decides to make in Season 5 and beyond. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming quite soon, that I promise you. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.